What's up everyone, and welcome back to another What If video. In the tradition of bringing back all my old What Ifs that I haven't really continued in a while, this one's another one that hasn't really gotten a new part in a while. No, I didn't forget about it. If you want to know the true reason, I feel like I kind of wrote myself in a corner with this one. I included way too many characters in retrospect, so now I had to come up with some ways to actually keep all of them somewhat relevant at least, without also making it too convoluted. Because if I add someone to a what if, I don't really want to waste them anymore, so I wasn't really sure what to do with this one. Alongside keeping it realistic because it's such a weird scenario, but I think I've come up with a way to make this work that isn't too outlandish. So why don't we start off with a recap. On the last episode, we left off with the defeat of Frieza, who just recently killed Guinea, Paragus, and Tarble, which caused a couple of Super Saiyan transformations. He did it as a show of power, but it kind of backfired because it caused 5 Super Saiyans to appear: Goku, Vegeta, Raditz, Broly, and even Gohan. Their collective power was enough to actually take him down, and now the Saiyans are victorious. And following this, they all head to Earth, wanting to start a new life. But their journey hasn't ended here. Some other stuff is going to happen on Earth, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Let's pick up from here. So with everyone on Earth, they now want to find a way to revive Guinea, Paragus, and Tarble. They are eventually revived and brought back to Earth, and now with all these new Saiyan visitors, they kind of want to begin a new life on Earth. Guinea's not really a fighter, and Paragus is almost out of his prime, so they're not really too interested in training like everyone else. However, all the other Saiyans are focused on trying to access Super Saiyan, which they saw 5 of during the battle with Frieza. It seems that any one of them can just access this if they're powerful enough. But it might take a while though. And I mean, being Saiyans, they all do train in the meantime. However, Earth isn't really as peaceful as they think. The timeline is kind of warped here because of the events. Because of the journey to the Saiyans planet, the training that they did, and then the journey back to Earth. In the last parts, I mentioned that those took about a year each. So it's been close to 3 years, and we're in age 764 now. Which means, not long after all the Saiyans arrive to Earth, Trunks is going to show up because this is the time that he actually appears. And right away, it's pretty clear that this isn't the same timeline to him. Everything is completely different. He thought it was kind of weird when he didn't see Frieza and King Cold, and that he might have been a few days off. But on his way to Capsule Corp, he then realizes what's going on. He's able to make contact with Bulma, who gives him contact with Goku, and he finds out that this timeline is completely different. Goku did defeat Frieza, and become a Super Saiyan, but it didn't go the way that it did normally. He did get the help of 4 other Super Saiyans after all. And this is news to Trunks. There's 4 other Super Saiyans? Goku's supposed to be the only Super Saiyan at this point, and that number doesn't make sense because the only other 2 there are Vegeta and Gohan. It gets even weirder once he hears that Raditz is still around and he's one of the Super Saiyans, as well as some guy named Broly. But that's not even the end of it, because he hears that there's about a dozen Saiyans in total, with one of them even being his uncle. Huh, that's news to him. He never knew he even had one. That's besides the point though. He then gets caught up on what happened in this timeline, and then Trunks just decides to reveal who he is. He has no worry about screwing up this timeline because it's already screwed up enough. The good news for him though is that Vegeta and Bulma, although it's only been a few months, they're already together. But no Trunks yet. And of course, the heart virus thing still happens, because even though Goku never went to Yardrat, in my what ifs I usually like to assume that Goku got the heart virus from when he was a kid, because he lived in the woods and kinda lived like a feral animal. So it's not really unreasonable to assume that he got it from living that way when he was a child. So he does still get the medication from Trunks, and he gets news about the androids. Trunks sticks around for a little bit longer, because Goku's pretty sure that everyone else is going to want to see this. I mean, a time traveler appeared and he's warning them about a threat in the future, and apparently King Cold's probably going to show up too. This is all a very weird and confusing scenario for everyone, but Trunks has done his job and delivered the news. He traveled back in the past to save his timeline, and even though this isn't his timeline, he does realize it might be a good idea for him to come back, because he could learn some new tricks from everyone if they train over this 3-year time period. He might as well help them out, because maybe they could help him with training, since he doesn't really have anyone in the future to train with anymore. Of course, they don't find out his true identity, only Goku knows that he's the son of Bulma and Vegeta. All they know he's a time traveler from the future, who's apparently a Saiyan too. They're kinda suspicious of him, but they won't question it. He seems like a good guy. With that out of the way, Trunks then departs, and the 3 years of training begins. But it's not going to be a smooth 3 years of training, because eventually, King Cold does make his appearance on Earth after a few months. He's obviously going to want to avenge his son. They should have got rid of those pesky Saiyans a long time ago, so he might as well just do the job now and get it over with. Unluckily for him though, he showed up kinda late, because a few months of training was more than enough for all the Saiyans to collectively outclass King Cold, at least the way he is now. With multiple Super Saiyans, their training has been a lot more effective, and while the other Saiyans aren't at Super Saiyan yet, They're on the cusp of it, and they have gotten a lot more powerful in the meantime. We'll assume the point that King Cold shows up is about 6 months after Trunks shows up, so half a year since then. And I feel that's enough time for the Super Saiyans alone to become strong enough to outclass him collectively. So they deal with him pretty easily, a lot easier than it was to fight Frieza. No one dies this time either. And it's a good way to test and gauge their power to see where they are right now. Training resumes like normal, and I think you can realize right now that this is a little bit overkill. Just the 5 Super Saiyans alone would be powerful enough to take on whatever. But then on top of that, you have Nappa, Tarble, Shallot, Giblet, and Turles. And then on the side, you got Piccolo and all the humans. So you have 9 Pure Saiyans, you have Gohan, you have Piccolo, you have Krillin, you have Tien, Yamcha. It's just a massive group of fighters. Everyone gets a lot stronger in this time. I mean, there's a bunch of training partners to go around, and everyone's motivated to keep up with one another, even if the humans have a hard time keeping up with the Saiyans. It kinda sucks that they're a little bit behind in terms of power, but it's not really a big deal. They train nonetheless. Hell, I mean, with all the Saiyans around, they do want to train Gohan, even though he is focused on his studying a bit. But he's already a Super Saiyan, so he's already got a good start, and obviously his dad's gonna want to train him, and his uncle. Because you know, Raditz isn't a murderous psychopath this time that kidnaps his nephew. He's actually got a good relationship with him. Over all this time for training, it does get a bit crazy, because with all these Saiyans trying to train to get Super Saiyan, they eventually are able to unlock it. Just think about how crazy that is. There's 10 Super Saiyans here. Now you could probably see why I was having trouble coming up with a part 5, because there's so many characters to juggle. And I mean, not only did they get Super Saiyan, but they are stronger in base too, alongside Piccolo and all the humans. So all this time passes, and then the androids do arrive. The entire group of the Dragon Team goes to the city, and they encounter Android 19 and 20. With so many people in the group, they're able to locate the androids a lot faster, and Yamcha doesn't even get hurt this time. They all move out of the city to face the androids. And well, there's some bad news because Goku still does succumb to the heart virus. But the good news this time, there's a bunch of people to take his place. With 9 other Super Saiyans, Piccolo, and then 3 of the other humans, it's kinda overkill. The androids aren't gonna escape. 19 is dealt with very easily, and Gero tries to make his escape, but it doesn't do anything. He also gets killed right away. So, was that what Trunks was warning them about? It didn't seem too bad. I mean, they did have strength in numbers, but who knows? Trunks does eventually show up, and then they realize that those aren't the actual androids he was referring to. But it's good that he killed them because it seems that one guy was Dr. Gero, the one who created the androids. And they find out from Bulma where his lab is. Well, at least the general location of it. This must mean the androids that Trunks faced, they're not activated yet, and they're apparently a lot stronger than 19 and 20. And this is really good because that means they can kill them preemptively. It takes some time to search, but they do eventually find the lab. And they proceed to destroy the pods for 17, 18, and one that they see that's labeled 16. It's better to not keep any android alive. They also collect any blueprints they find, and then they stumble upon something really weird. It seems like an incubation chamber, with some weird green creature inside. It's a project labeled Cell, and this leaves Trunks speechless. Is this another android? They frantically look through all Gero's blueprints and his plans, and they find out what this project actually is. Needless to say, they kill it right away. But that makes Trunks kinda worried, because that means it exists in his timeline too. And for all he knows, this cell is already complete in his time, and could just be lurking about anywhere. Trunks realizes that it was a good idea to come back, because otherwise, he wouldn't know about Cell. But on top of that, he asks if everyone can train him. They seem pretty strong, and they're actually on the cusp of trying to access something above Super Saiyan, which they've all been working on for a while when Goku wanted to see what the limits of the form were. Because of how effective the training was over the 3 years with all the training partners and the fact that people already knew Super Saiyan, Vegeta actually discovered Super Saiyan Grade 2 already, with Goku not far behind. With everyone else trying to work towards it too, but they realize that this isn't even the full power of it. They can go even further beyond it, maybe to a point where they have complete control over Super Saiyan. But they're kind of far off. Trunks doesn't mind either way, he just needs some training. It would mean he's going to be away from his timeline for a while, but it's better than going back empty-handed. He needs to make sure that this trip is worthwhile, so he might as well train while he's here, even if it does take a long time. For a few months, they do train with him, and Goku is obviously back in action after a few days, so he joins in on this. A few more of the strong members of the team, such as Raditz, Turles, Shallot, and Giblet, are even able to access Grade 2 on their own. And I'm hesitant to say that Broly would be able to do it, not because he's weak, but because his Super Saiyan kinda acts in a unique way, so I don't really know if he'd be able to do the same kind of Grade 2. At least from what we've seen, he's very different when he's in Super Saiyan. So he does get stronger, but I don't really know how he would work in terms of accessing these different forms just because of how his Super Saiyan's so different from everyone else. We haven't really seen enough of him to actually discuss this in depth, so I'd like you guys to let me know in the comments what you think. You know, whether or not Broly would have the same line of Super Saiyan forms like everyone else has. Like the 4 different grades, Super Saiyan 2, yada yada, all that. But that's kind of besides the point, we're focusing on Trunks now. Trunks is not only able to get stronger in base, but he does unlock grade 2, which is stronger, but it's not really that great. And they all know there's something beyond that. Goku and Vegeta are actually able to tap into grade 3 eventually, and they realize that it's kind of useless because of how slow and bulky it is, but they can tell that there's something further. Trunks is getting kind of antsy though. It has been a few months and he does want to get back to his timeline. And he has gotten considerably stronger in base, and he does have grade 2 now, but is that really enough for him? Who knows what the androids have been up to in the meantime? He doesn't really want to spend too much more time here. And that gets Goku to think, and he gets an idea that he should have gotten in the first place, which he also realizes that no one else knows about, the Room of Spirit and Time. Maybe they can take Trunks in there and have him train. I should also bring up that by this point, Trunks is born in this timeline because Vegeta and Bulma do get together, so Vegeta is well aware that this guy is his son from the future. So of course, he's the one who actually wants to go ahead and train Trunks. Kami allows them to access the room, and after a day passes, they exit and they have actually found a new form of Super Saiyan. One where there's not really that much stamina drain like before, but they're still using Super Saiyan at its full power. The two of them, in the year of training, have unlocked Super Saiyan grade 4. This amazes everyone else on the outside, and they want to work towards it too. And the Room of Spirit and Time sounds awesome. You get a year of training in a day? They're stoked to actually try it out. Kami's kind of concerned about what he got into because now he and Popo have to deal with everyone on the lookout and all the food going into the Room of Spirit and Time. But hey, what can you do? Goku's kind of surprised that he didn't think about this before. But better late than never, I guess? Trunks thanks everyone for their help, and then he heads back to his timeline. And he does claim victory over the androids. But there's one android that I'm forgetting to mention, Cell. So where's he been all this time? Well, he knows 17 and 18 were destroyed, so now his plan is ruined to become perfect. So he came back in time all for nothing. So he's just been stuck here gradually gaining energy while trying to remain stealthy about it. He could go find a bunch of humans and absorb them and get a bunch of energy that way, but he knows if he does that, he's going to draw attention from the Saiyans, and that's not really going to be good because he knows that there's a bunch around here. He's been in panic mode and been in hiding for the past few months while Trunks was here, because he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. He decides, screw it. He's just going to go out and absorb however many people he can get, because maybe then he'll at least get a little bit stronger and could fight the Saiyans. But he's got to be quick about it because once he starts doing it, it's going to give away his cover. This is a last resort. He doesn't really have any other option, since his time machine is basically ruined, so he can't even go back to his time. And it's safe to say that it doesn't go too well for him. He's facing a bunch of different fighters that are all very strong, so by the time he gets noticed, he has no escape, and he can't really fight them off. So he gets dealt with, and I guess that means that's the end of the Android saga. I know it's kind of convoluted and a lot more different than the original Android saga, but with so many different fighters, who are all very strong in their own right, Android 19 and 20 wouldn't really have a chance, meaning 17 and 18 would never get activated, meaning that Cell never gets to become perfect, so there's not really that much threat for them. It's a good thing that Trunks came back and warned them about it. But now, we'll be in a brief period of peace, and in the next part, we can cover what's going on in the personal lives of all the Saiyans. Or at least try to. I mean, there's a bunch here, so who knows. I'll try not to take too much time to make the next part like I did this time, so my apologies. But that's where we'll end it for now. So what did you guys think about this part, and what do you think will happen in the next part? Leave your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check all the comments out. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like, and if you haven't already, why not subscribe, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notified about any future parts of this what if, or any other videos I make on my channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.